Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Business Spotlight. I am Scott McMeans with Action Coach, and I am pleased to have on the channel today Evan Davis from Notus Labs. This is one of the coolest things that you'll ever get a chance to learn about. It is a device, it is a system that is all about player safety. So, Evan, if I could, I want you to be welcome to the show, and I want you to introduce yourself to the audience. So the camera and the microphone are yours. Go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Evan Davies. I'm the CEO of Notus Labs. We started this company in 2019 to improve player safety and athletic performance. We have a wearable device. This is what it looks like. So it's about the area of a quarter, sticks onto your chest. It's really comfortable. I forget that I have it on. We stream all that data back to the coaches, trainers, doctors, wherever that might be, anyone who's responsible for the health and performance of the athlete. We warn them if anything is going wrong in real time. So whether that's they're not performing like they're supposed to, their heart rate's too high, they're starting to go into heat stroke, anything that you would need to immediately assess a player for, we warn them. And then we also provide all the data back in a historical format so you can go back through and analyze and make sure that you're training your players correctly.
That's outstanding. And I don't know necessarily if we want to get into the technical details of what happens, but I'm assuming people want to know, how does it work if it's a wearable device? How does it get information from the player to understand what exactly is happening? So can you briefly explain it as if I'm 10 years old?
Yeah, well, I do love talking about the tech, but I'll try and keep it pretty simple here. But basically, we've packed a ton of different sensors into this, so we're tracking what activities the players are doing and how their bodies are responding to that through quite a few different sensors. We stream all the data back to the cloud and analyze it further there, and then we report it back on our dashboard where you can see all the data for every single player and how they've been doing in the past.
Outstanding. So each chip is identifiable to each player, and then
Yeah,
the algorithms and software that you have is what crunches the data and spits out the reporting.
exactly.
Okay. So the device that you have and the sensors, the configuration, is that protected in any way?
The hardware is patent pending. We're about to file a second patent for it, and I expect the first one to go through, pretty soon here. The patent office is pretty slow these days, but that should go through shortly. And the software algorithms that are running it all are all trade secret, so I'm not going to get into the details of how those work.
Hey, I wasn't going to ask for the secrets. I just want to make sure you have secrets. That way nobody
Yeah.
can rip off what you're doing. So walk us through the story about the mission for player safety. How did you get started, and what is it that drove you to pick this arena to make your mark as the CEO?
We started looking at heat stroke deaths and core temperature prediction to prevent heat-related illness. I met my co-founder in a lab at Case Western Reserve University here in Cleveland. We were doing a lot of research with athlete safety and performance, both looking at them as a healthy control and how we can get them recovered from injury. Then we started looking at how we can prevent these injuries from happening in the first place. There are way too many heat stroke deaths and cases that are severe enough for players to miss, practice, school, several days of work happening in the US. And that number is increasing every single year, especially as the summers are getting hotter. So that's a really serious issue. And with the technology that we've built over the last few years, that's entirely preventable. Heat stroke, sometimes it's hard to notice the early warning signs. The standard right now for coaches is one, making sure they're not pushing too hard in the summer, whether that's limiting time spent on the field or moving practices inside or something. But then really what they're doing is just watching their players to see if they have any symptoms of something going wrong with them. So you see someone start to stumble or fall over. By that point, it's already way too late. Once those symptoms are apparent, you're already in a dangerous zone. So what we're doing is warning them well before they get into that area where it's dangerous for them, so that you can pull them off, rest them, cool them down somehow, and then they're good to go back out on the field once you've addressed that, as long as you don't let it get too bad beforehand. So that's what we started looking at, and then we realized that we had much broader application than just core temperature prediction, and so we started to build out, heart rate, player activity, starting to look at these performance related metrics as well.
That's incredible. All of that in something that is the size of a quarter. It doesn't
Yeah.
make it's impossible to believe, but it's right in front of me, so I have to assume it. It works great. Everything's everything's fantastic. It's impressive to say that something like that can actually work. I'm assuming there's a handheld device or a monitor that's on the sidelines that a coach has a chance to look at. Is that how the data gets reported back?
Yeah, so they just go to our website and log into it and go to their organization. So it works on any device, works on phones, tablets, laptops, whatever they want to look at. A lot of, especially high school teams, like they'll have one athletic trainer for their entire athletic department. And so that one person is responsible for, a couple hundred athletes at a time in some cases. And so, they could be in their office taping someone up and have this pulled up on the screen on their computer and say, oh, maybe I need to head down to the football field or soccer field or whatever, and address whatever's going on down there.
What's the capacity for, I would imagine you have the football team, cross country team, the volleyball team, the soccer team, they're all different configurations, right?
Mhm.
So one trainer, like you said, could sit in a centralized location and monitor all of the athletes that are in the variety of programs, whether it's freshman, JV, or varsity, in all these different sports, male and female, and then actually know who they should go pay attention to or who they should address because they're reaching a danger zone, as you said. That's the goal?
Exactly. And ideally, the coaches would see that information too, but the trainer will be able to see that too before they get the call that something's gone wrong.
Yeah, that's impressive. So you've made comment, and we talked about this before the interview, that high schools and club teams are where you're going to start your focus, and eventually get into colleges and the professional level. And I think the amount of money spent in collegiate and professional sports, they want to protect their assets. And this is a phenomenal way of doing that. So as we peel the onion back a little bit, Evan, talk to me about some of the lessons that you've learned as you built this quarter-sized phenomenon into what it is today. So walk us through some of the challenges you face as Notus Labs has come to be.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly made a lot of mistakes in my day, and I think if I were to do it again, I could get to this stage much faster. A lot of it, when this started out, I was heavily focused on the engineering side. I just I wanted to make a cool product that helps people, but I learned pretty quickly there that's not all it takes. You can't just say, look at this cool new thing I made. You got to come up with a business model. You got to figure out who you're going to sell it to. Even though this has really broad applications, I see this getting used in the consumer side too, especially, endurance athletes, CrossFit people, like, the high performing sort of adult athletes, I think would be really interested in this. But it's really important to take a really narrow view, look at where you're going to be the most successful, the fastest, start getting those initial customers on as fast as you can. Obviously, that's difficult if you have a lot of R&D to do. But being able to figure out, exactly who you're going to sell it to, have a clear path to grow in whatever, tiny, very focused chunk of the market you've picked, that's been hugely important. There's so many possible opportunities out there. It's really hard to figure out exactly which one to focus on, but I think you have to do that. You can't get distracted by, in our case, it's like, oh, you could work with firefighters or go after the military or elder care or any number of these things. It's like there's a ton of opportunities out there, but you really have to pick one and, not get distracted by all of the other possibilities and actually make some progress in one of these fields.
What would you say, Evan, is the biggest challenge for staying focused and not getting distracted?
Well, I have a lot of trouble with getting distracted, but um, um, yeah, I think it's, it's important to consider all the opportunities, but I'm not in the business of ignoring a good idea. But I also think
Hmm.
that, you'll get a lot of advice of, you know, focus on this thing, focus on that thing. So it's important to sit down and consider it, but really coming up with a plan and sticking to that will go a long way. Um, definitely consider all the options, but you know, eventually you'll land on one that works. And once you're starting to make progress there, you might as well push through that instead of starting back at zero with a new target.
Understood. So as we're looking to get some education to the audience, what would you describe as one challenge that you were able to address and push forward and get the corrective action in place so people understand, one, I'm not alone. Every business has challenges. I may very well have the same challenge that Evan does, but walk us through what's the one challenge that you can think of that you and the team at Notus have been able to overcome, and how did you do it?
Um, well, basically, all of us have technical backgrounds and not a ton of business experience, which was fine when we were just developing a product and not trying to sell it yet. But it's really important to start getting that in. The thing that's been the most helpful to me is bringing on mentors and advisors. I have so many great people that I talk to, weekly or monthly that are have been there before.
Mm.
Finding people who have run successful startups, finding people who are influential in the athletic space, people who have just been generally very good at business. All of those people can
Mhm.
help you, and a lot of them are willing to. Um, when we started out, I thought I could figure it all out on my own, and I think that set us back considerably because that's just going to take much more time, even if you can figure it out. Like there are lots of people who have made the same mistakes, um, can see the pitfalls coming way before you can. And so bringing on people with more experience to help out, that
There
was
you
really
go.
the most helpful thing that I've done over the last few years.
I appreciate you being vulnerable and letting the audience know that, because I think one of the biggest challenges people have is when they're a startup or they're trying to get their business up and running, they see asking for assistance as a sign of weakness, so they don't want to do it. And in essence, if you really think about it, asking somebody for assistance is the ultimate sign of confidence and strength, because you know what you don't know. So you're going to ask people to help you on the things you don't know, which is a great way of moving your business from point A to point B. So I give you a ton amount of kudos for that, because not too many people are comfortable enough to ask for help. And what I think is interesting, the community that you've made mention to, whether it's advisors, mentors, former business colleagues, whatever, when you ask for help, people are actually willing to give you help because they want to see you be successful. And I think that's a really cool thing. Evan, are there any challenges
I
that you're facing? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it makes you much stronger in the long term too. Because all of those people, they have their entire network of connections that they can go and tap to. So, if I run into
Yeah.
a problem and I ask, someone in my network, and even if they don't know the answer, they probably know someone who does. And
Yeah.
as long as you can get them excited about what you're doing, a lot of people will help you for free or, for a little bit of equity. Even if it's you can't afford to pay them a ton of cash. It's really important to get those people on board and you know excited to help you out.
I love the idea that you recognize you're stronger in the long run for getting assistance and asking for help. And one of the biggest character flaws that people have is they won't ask for help. And being able to ask for help shows, in my opinion, is a sign of strength, because you know what you're convicted or convinced, you're committed to, and you want to keep doing that. So kudos to you. I want to ask you about Notus Labs. What is your big, hairy, audacious goal? Like, what do you envision this to be? And it doesn't have to be, oh, we want to be in the NFL. I think that's too small for you. But what is your big, hairy, audacious goal? What do you want to see happen with Notus Labs?
I want this to be the ultimate coaching tool for all kinds of athletes. So eventually, my dream is really to be able to translate all the data that we're getting into something that you can just read and act on in real time, start helping to plan workouts, adjust them on the fly. I think with the data that we're collecting, that's certainly possible, but being able to build out all of that insight to provide to the users, that's really my biggest goal is, I think even a lot of like the consumer users of wearables, they like looking at the numbers that they're providing, but I don't think that anyone really understands what they mean. I've spent years and years studying a lot of this stuff, and I still don't understand what some of them mean. So, so I think there needs to be a big push to make this actually useful for the average person, give them a clear idea of what they need to be doing, whether they're a coach for a team at any level or even an individual user. That's my biggest goal is like, I want this to actively help people be healthier and achieve whatever their fitness goals are.
I love it. I love it. I mean, building a platform that not only does what you currently do, but is an additional step for market opportunities in different arenas is a really solid thing for you. I don't know if this is a right question to ask, but I think it bears to be asked. What is the difference between Notus Labs and other things that are in the market today? For instance, Fitbit. What's the difference? My Apple tracker. What's the difference? Give me a little bit of background so people can really drive home the concept of, yeah, this is why I want to work with Notus Labs.
The biggest thing is that this is designed to work and work at all levels. Accuracy level is extremely high, and that's one of the most important things to me as a designer and as a businessman is I want to sell something that actually works. On we've worked really closely with university hospitals. Our medical advisory board has Dr. Voos and Dr. Kelsey, who are the doctors for the Browns, and Dr. Voos is the president of the NFL Physician Society. So working with them to see what would be useful at the top, what they're doing now, and what they'd like to see improved has been extremely helpful. But I want to be able to provide that at all levels. And so, some of these products are fine for your average consumer, but the accuracy level is quite bad on a lot of them. And then also the insight part that I was just talking about is, translating the numbers that you're getting into something that you can actually act on without needing to have extensive knowledge of what they mean.
Okay.
That's also
And
super important to me.
Evan, you don't have to tell me all of the different things it monitors, but how many different data sets per athlete are you grabbing with that quarter size attachment? And how does it attach to the athlete?
We have a disposable adhesive, so you just put the adhesive on before practice or before your game, and then take it
Right
off
on the
after.
skin?
Yeah, right
Okay.
on the skin on the chest.
Okay. So how many data points are we collecting? Is it 10 or is it 10,000?
That depends on how you count it, really.
Okay.
No, I look at I disagree with the way some of our competitors count data points. They'll take a 3-axis accelerometer, which is just an acceleration measurement, and say that's 6 sensors somehow. But really the core things that we're collecting are temperature, your physiological response, so how your heart and your body is responding, and then the activities that you're doing, so how much you're moving around externally. So really, there's several different sensors in each of those categories, but those are the 3 most important things. So
Okay.
what activity you're doing, how your body's responding to that, how the heat's getting moved. And then being able to translate that into something that you can act on, because that's very engineering, physics-based approach, and then telling people what to do with that information.
Okay. So speaking about acting on something, what's the one thing that Notus Labs wants to act on in the next year? What is your focus? What are you trying to get done in the next year?
We're in a limited market release right now, so we're bringing on our first couple teams. The goal of that is really prove out the system, get a ton of user feedback. I have 100 different features that I'm sitting on that we haven't taken the time to fully flesh out yet because I want to know what the most important things for our customers are. I think that's another huge thing that I've had to learn as we've grown as a business is, you know, you want to build just the core of what people need and then really flesh it out exactly their specifications. It's very hard to know,
Yeah.
what someone wants just by guessing it without their feedback. So over the next year, really building out exactly what these users are asking for. We're going into full launch in August. Catch some of the summer sports. Football players doing 2-a-days before school starts, and then continue to grow. Really, the target is to go into 2025 ready to have some really strong sales, start breaking into the college and maybe even professional markets.
I love it. Is there a shared responsibility between you and the other owners, or are you working with university hospitals? Where is the funding coming from in order to generate what you want to do out of Notus? Are you looking for funding right now?
Yeah, we're about to open our seed round. So we're going to raise
Okay.
$3 million. A lot of that's going to go towards really fleshing out the commercialization side of the team. We have some very talented engineers on, and I certainly couldn't have turned this into the size of a quarter myself. My last prototype that I made was, I don't know, about that big. So not super wearable. But really building out the business side, starting to bring on sales, customer support, customer success. I'm still handling a lot of that right now, especially with our early development partners. So I'm going out to practices and watching how things are working in real time and figuring out what's going right, what's going wrong. But that's not going to scale. I'm not going to be able to go out to 1,000 different teams at once. So
True.
a lot of that's going to go towards building out that commercialization and support team.
Okay. Well, for those that are watching the show and you're interested in a phenomenal investment opportunity, I will recommend you get in touch with Evan. His email and website information will be in the description below. So by all means, take a look at that. He'll be LinkedIn, or his LinkedIn profile will be available as well. Evan, this has been great. I've gotten a lot of information and insight. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And I hope the best for you and your colleagues at Notus Labs. Before we go, I do enjoy asking one final question of all my interviewees. And that is, if you were to sit down on a park bench next to the 18-year-old Evan Davies, what would you say to him?
It's a great question. It hasn't really been that long. I'm only 24 now. So,
Okay, rewind yourself 6 years before you walked onto the campus of Case Western University. Or what would you say to yourself?
I would tell him that, in the future, we're going to be working on some really cool things. And I would also tell him that he'll enjoy the business side more than he thinks. I was very into the engineering and technology, but really, since I've transitioned into, being CEO and talking to customers and investors all the time, I enjoy that way more than I thought I would. And that he should start doing that much earlier.
No, you know what's so funny about this?
What?
And to a person, when I ask that question, it always falls into a number of different things, but it always boils down to one to three things. Follow your passion, start earlier, don't give up. That's what everybody says about their 18-year-old self question. That's why I love the question, because everybody has a different variety of saying the exact same thing. And this is what I really enjoyed your answer, and here's the reason why. I was so interested in the technology stuff of it, I didn't want to do the business side. Now that I'm doing the business side, I really like it. I'm gonna give you a little hint. You know why you like it so much?
Why?
Because it's your passion. It makes it so much easier to fall in line with what is necessary when you truly believe in it. It's your baby, it's your passion. You want people to see this and the value that it represents. And that's why you're so committed to it. And that's why it's easy to go out to a practice and easy to go talk to somebody because you so wholeheartedly believe in it. And that, Evan, is the true measure of a solid business person. You have an investment in this and you're vested so strongly because it's yours. And I hope you have a success that is beyond belief with this, because I can see it being a skyrocket. This is fantastic stuff.
Well, thank you, Scott. That means a lot.
No, it's great, man. And I want to thank you for being on the spotlight. And please, people, get a chance to watch this. Click, learn as much as you can, and maybe you'll have one of those on your chest, or one of your kids will have it on their chest. Who knows? But eventually, a lot of people are going to have these on their chest. So,
Oh yeah.
to everybody out there, thanks for being a part of the spotlight. Thanks, Evan.
Thanks so much for having me.